Once you have a virtual machine provisioned through Windows Azure, you're probably going to want to configure the system as per your requirements. And one of the more common things that you might want to do is to configure its storage. Now, obviously, when you create a new virtual machine, you get a default configuration for storage. And we can just have a look and see what that is like by accessing our virtual machines here. And then we can just click over here on disks. So you get a default disk, obviously, and this is the properties for that. It tells us that it's got this name attached to our server. And this one, of course, contains the operating system with some read-write cache settings in place. Now, you can create a new disk right from within here. If I were to click on the create option, then what it allows me to do is specify a new disk from a VHD that I might have already created, but this does require that you have something already set up within a storage solution for your subscription. So if I just cancel this for now, I'll just indicate where that is. That's right here under storage. So if you only have storage subscription to begin with, then you can use any kind of VHD that you might have in here. And this is one that I just set up previously, again, just for demonstration purposes. So I could use that. So I can go that route. But another option is just to reconfigure the disk settings within the virtual machine itself. And I can get started with that by just attaching an empty VHD file. So right at the bottom here, you'll see there's an option to attach. And it'll give you the option here to attach an empty disk. If you had created an additional disk at any point in time, then it'll give you the choice to reattach any existing disks. But for getting started, we're just going to go with an empty disk option here. So it's going to give you the name by default and the location if you needed to. So what this is going to do, of course, is create a storage account with that particular file. The name is just based on the name of the server with some date information tagged in, and then the size options. There may be some variance here with respect to what your subscription is, but in general, the maximum specification is 1 terabyte, and you can have up to 16 different drives. So for this demonstration, let's just go with something small, just 10 gigs. And then you can set some cache options as well with respect to how the disk will perform. Read-write is going to give you a better performance, but there are some issues that may pop up with caching depending on what the application is doing. But in general, caching is better for your performance, but we'll just leave it set to none just for this demonstration. And we'll click on OK, and that should begin attaching an empty disk to our virtual machine. That might take a few seconds, so we'll just let that run. Okay, so that has completed, and we can have a look now and see what has been done. So if we go back to our disk configuration here, we should now see that we have an additional one. So note that it does not have a cache as we specified, but we can click on that if we need to, and there are some edit options that we can do with respect to the cache if necessary. So let's go back to the virtual machine and let's remote in and verify that we now have that additional disk available to us. So let's just access our disk configuration then and see what we've got. So there's our disk management popping up, in fact, by default, and there it is. So now we have a new disk showing up, and we can initialize this just like it was any other hard drive. So we just have to select that, select our format here, and then just hit OK. And there's our 10 gig drive down below. So we can now make use of that just like any other data storage. Let's just do a new simple volume on this very quickly, using all the defaults. And that new data drive is now available. So if we just quickly go back into our computer here, we should see that once that finishes formatting as a new available drive. That just will take a second, but that's how you can add in and configure any additional storage within your VM. Now, as I mentioned, there's a few other approaches that you might want to take, and we'll have a look at some of those coming up in a little bit later. But just for provisioning your initial storage, pretty simple, pretty quick, pretty easy. There's our new drive. Back into computer. And there we go. We've got our data storage available on that system now. So additional storage, pretty easy to configure within a Windows Azure virtual machine.